Welcome to today's episode where I'm interviewing Eddie George, who is a soma breathwork and DACA counsellor. Eddie, how are you doing? Thank you very much for coming in today, having a wee chat with us about your experience with DACA as a counsellor, drug and alcohol counsellor, and talking a wee bit about your soma breathworks and your workshops that you're going to be starting to deliver around Glasgow. So talk me through a wee bit about your DACA background, how you got involved in that and what you're involved in now.
Okay, well, thanks for having me, Louise. Big follower of what you've been doing for quite a while now, and I think it's great what you're doing. I've never done anything like this before, so
that's all right.
Excuse me if I'm a wee bit nervous or whatever, but no, I kind of started being involved with DACA, Dumbartonshire Area Council on Alcohol. We just often refer to it as DACA. Probably about 4 years ago now. I was presented with an opportunity to become an alcohol and addiction counsellor after attending a talk that they had put on in Clydebank Town Hall. I was a children's panel member before that, and I did that for 2 years. Came through the training. I was doing it in the Dumbartonshire area. Just working with vulnerable children and basically social work and doing the children's panel stuff.
Yeah, that must have opened your eyes a lot.
Well, I kind of came through the children's hearing system as a child for a few years, and I remember it vividly. Sat there as a young kid, you know, in an environment where all the adults are talking about you as if you're not really there. So I always kind of thought when I had an opportunity I was going to try and get involved with that and try and offer a wee bit back.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's an eye-opener. You think, you know, you've had a bit of a tough childhood, and then you see what's going on in some of the households, you know, all across Scotland in general, and I'm sure I couldn't really say that was really rewarding in a certain sense. It was difficult at times, but I certainly learnt a lot from it. But DACA had been putting on a talk for children's panel members just to let them know about resources and organisations that were available for people struggling with alcohol and addiction really in the local area. So they thought it was a good idea to be promoting what they do to the children's panel members to then allow us to then try and maybe offer that as an alternative for support for some of the parents that we were encountering.
Brilliant.
Because it's not just about the kids, obviously, it's the parents, and a lot of it's generational.
Absolutely,
you know,
and it has to stop somewhere. But for you guys to be aware of what's available in the local area to signpost or even to take on that training yourself, that's a big resource in itself to be able to help these families, because oftentimes it's a process with like social work and children's panel, and a lot of the time they don't communicate with each other. And then the school system and NHS system as well. So I think that's a great thing that they had introduced.
Oh, it was eye-opening for me, definitely, because I'd been aware of the AA. You know, that's what most folk would kind of go to first of all, wouldn't they, for any alcohol problems a lot of the time. But a lot of people don't really relate to the AA because they think it's very spiritual, or it's giving up your power to a higher power and all that sort of stuff. So I had a lot of experience with the AA just because my mother was an alcoholic. I remember going to meetings as a child for many years before my mum got sober. So I knew about the 12 steps, and I'd sat in that many meetings as kids and as a child. And for me, it was quite eye-opening that there was something like DACA in the local community, because it was such an alternative to the AA, the 12 steps, or psychotherapy or anything like that at all. So I was really intrigued by it, and I was asking a lot of questions, that many questions actually, that the woman, that Mags, the director, she asked me to stay behind at the end, and I stayed behind at the end, and I was just really curious about what was on offer that could be an alternative to AA. Because as I said, not a lot of folk want to really go down the AA route for whatever reason, until they try it, of course. So for me, it was really, it was an eye-opener to see what the DACA was offering, and it was very different to, you know, what the AA offers. I mean, the AA, for example, they pretty much rely on abstinence. You know, they pretty much almost require that you're abstinent when you're going there. Obviously, you can still be relapsing and whatever, but DACA is very much a person-centred approach.
Right.
You know, we're not just asking you to stop drinking there. We're here to actually just assist the person in whatever they want to achieve. Now, a lot of people, when they come to us, the first thing they want to do is control their drinking. And for some folk, that can work, and for other folk, it doesn't. But there's no like, oh, you need to be stopping drinking, you can't use our service. It's very much a person-centred approach.
Right, and I would imagine quite a non-judgmental then. So you're, you know, if you do arrive and you say, look, I've had a bit of a relapse, or then you're not going to be judged and putting that barrier there between that person wanting to come back or feeling shame or guilt or embarrassment.
Yeah, it changes us in our cycle. They talk about all these different cycles in life and whatever, and you know, they talk about the cycle of change in counselling. Most folk who are involved in the kind of counselling environment would know what that is, and it's like pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, lapse and relapse. And a lot of folk get in that cycle many, many times before they kind of make any serious change, and it's just about supporting people in a non-judgmental way. And
Absolutely, and I think as well, like you say, that process is realistic, because we're not living in a society where it's just you go to this and that's it, and then you change and you're happy and that's you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like we've got things that come into play. You've got like poverty, you've got social circumstance, you've got family dynamics. There's so many different variables that can affect a person's emotions and trigger them through previous trauma that makes them want to use or to drink. So I think it's, like you say, it's about being realistic and using these methods to help that person in the best way that suits them in a person-centred approach.
100%.
I think that's amazing, it really is, and I don't think there's enough of it out there. I think it is quite, there are lots of services emerging, which is great, but you want someone that's possibly been through it, so that that's lived experience and they can relate to say, look, this might not work for you, but this is what's helped me and this is what's helped many other people, but let's work with you, and we'll work in a way that's going to be realistic for you to make these changes. It's
about letting people know as well what counselling actually is. You know, people are just kind of, certainly men, we're brought up in a culture in Scotland here where, you know, man up, you know, stop crying, I'll give you something to cry for, or that kind of stuff. Men don't talk, or that kind of stuff. That's why male suicide in Scotland's through the roof, and that's why, you know, there's a lot of addiction, a lot of alcohol and drug problems in Scotland. I mean, we carry this label in Scotland here, you know, and it's shameful with the SNP or any form of government or current government are not really going out their way to address it. It's, you know, it's difficult because the resources are there for people, but for example, people come to me or come to counselling and they go, right, okay, fix me. And I'm like, we're not here to fix you. I don't have the answers to your problems. You know, you've got the answers to your problems. This is a safe environment for us to discuss and talk about your issues, opening up over a period of time, as long as required with DACA. There's no time frame.
Right.
You know, a lot of counselling organisations or, you know, referrals through maybe NHS referrals or whatever, there's a kind of time frame on it, like maybe 8 to 10 sessions, sometimes 12.
Right.
Whereas we've got an open door policy. Like, I've got clients that I've been working with now for over a year, nearly close to 2 years, who have been coming back, and it's maybe took a long period of time for them to make change, but you know, it's an open door policy with DACA, but it's just trying to make people realise that, you know, we're not going to find our answers to our problems externally, you know, by booking a new holiday or buying a new car, getting a new TV because your neighbour's got them, a bit of retail therapy, or you're not going to find the answers to your problems at the bottom of a bottle of alcohol or a bag of gear or whatever substance you're deciding to use as a crutch. It's about really just, first of all, awareness. You need to be aware that you've got an issue, and I think a lot of folk kind of generally do. They've got a deep subconscious awareness that there is an issue here. That's the kind of pre-contemplation stage of the cycle of change. Right. And then you've got the contemplation stage where folk are generally starting to think about trying to make a change in their life, and people can get stuck on that stage for quite a while. And then it's the preparation. Right, okay, I'm maybe going to start, the diet starts on Monday, or I'm definitely after a weekend bevy binge or whatever, or bevy and drugs bender, right, Monday, that's it, I'm definitely off it. And then the hardest step for folk is action, you know, taking the action and then looking for overnight results. But I mean, it's all the answers to people's problems lie within themselves, and first of all, they need to have awareness and then acceptance. Acceptance of the role that they're playing in their own suffering. I mean, ultimately, like for myself, been through a lot of stuff, a lot of folk that get involved with counselling, I can't speak for everyone, but certainly in my situation, I think most folk in society these days have probably had some period of their life where they've maybe had a wee bit of an issue with drink or drugs. So for most folk, they can address it and get out the other end of it, but for some folk, it's a slippery slope and it drags them down and down and down and they lose everything.
Yeah.
But it's trying to make people realise that, first of all, you've got the answers to your own problems here. You know, stop trying to avoid it and trying to look for solutions in external things. You know, just try and connect with yourself, accept the role that you're playing in your own suffering, and realise that the only person that's holding you back in life is literally the person in the mirror. And the only person that can make the change in your life is the person in the mirror. You know, I can be there to support you, your family can be there to support you, but ultimately it's like try to drag the horse to water.
That's it.
Like, you can't make it drink. You can go to the gym and work out and get strong enough to drag the big horse to water, drag it all the way there, drag its big head down to the water, but you can't ultimately make that horse drink. And people 100%. Are not going to stop doing what they're doing because you're telling them to stop. That's they need to really want it for themselves. And how much do they want it?
That's it. And I think in that process of change, or like pre-contemplation and then contemplation, it's like, well, how do I do this? How do I? Because they might be surrounded by an environment that's feeding into that, 100%. And that's, I mean, it's how do you break away from that? Because that's how you identify as, this is where I belong. These are my friends. This is my family. This is my lifestyle. So what changes in that can they make? That's because it's not going to be easy. It's never easy to make changes, but like you say about going to the gym, and it's about doing any lifestyle changes, it's incremental. It's got to be a gradual thing where it's been driven by you, because like the diet starts Monday, diets don't work, they never last. So it's changing that mindset to going, right, how can I do this realistically and achievably? Like, how do I achieve this in a way that's going to be long lasting and sustainable? Did you learn anything about yourself by doing this type of counselling?
So much so. Like, the whole, like, criteria and the whole coursework that you do for your counselling, it's not just all clerical and learning about, you know, the stages of counselling and the techniques that you use for counselling. It's all about self-awareness. It's the same as the 12 steps in this sort of sense. So people don't realise that. The 12 steps, literally, of AA are all about self-reflection and self-awareness, getting to know yourself. I learned so much about myself, I think, in a way, like, I probably could have done with counselling it myself at some point, but by doing this kind of diploma and learning my qualifications and working with other folk, and just experiencing other people's life experiences, certainly a lot of reflection, and it's certainly raised my awareness a lot, and it's helped me so much in my journey with like stopping drinking and stopping dabbling in drugs recreationally, and just all the changes that I made and trying to break the generational trauma that's in my family. Because I mean, alcohol and addiction, it runs through all families, let's be honest. Certainly in Scotland, we're brought up in a culture where, certainly, I can't speak for every day, but you're happy, let's go and celebrate and go to the pub, let's pop open a bottle. We're sad, we're commiserating, let's go to the pub, let's crack open a bottle. What are you up to tonight? Nothing, sitting bored, let's go to the pub. It just seems to be that culture of drink, and drinking needs to be the answer to everything. And they talk about gateway drugs. Let's be honest, alcohol's a gateway drug here. You know, you almost look up at your parents and your seniors and you're grown up thinking, I can't wait till I'm old enough to start drinking like them. You know what I mean? But then you're just drawn right into it, and before you know it, it's no everybody that's obviously going to have problems with alcohol or drugs, but certainly trauma plays a big part in it. Childhood trauma, and trauma's a part of life, but there's elements and levels of trauma as well. Complex trauma, sexual trauma. Well, trauma is a part of life, but it's riddled through the whole of society.
Absolutely. So what is the DACA, what is the sort of set up for it then? Is it do they have different departments within it where you would maybe be referred elsewhere within? For maybe something more complex or more sort of specialist?
No, kind of all the counsellors at DACA deal with all aspects.
Right.
I mean, see, ultimately, like, what I learned during my counselling diploma, the COSCA, like the process that I had to follow, and with the journey I'm on at the moment with the qualification and stuff like that, was I had to do a COSCA introductory diploma, which lasted a year. It was a year intensive course at COSCA in Glasgow. I then was basically put into placement with DACA, which was the organisation that were paying for my qualification. And there's two routes to becoming a qualified counsellor. You can either go down the diploma route, which is more classroom work, or you're kind of on-site like placement, working with people. So you do your introductory diploma first of all, and then you can, like what I've done, I've started working with folks straight away. But I mean, I'm kind of almost at the stage now where I'm finishing a portfolio that I've been building for 3 years. So we're pretty much just dealing with all aspects. I mean, ultimately, the trainer who taught me during my introductory diploma at Costco, a guy called Neil McCauley, big shout out to Neil if he's listening or ever watches this sort of stuff, but it was absolutely phenomenal. This guy, like, he'd been in counselling for years and years and years, and ultimately he sat down and said ultimately that the deep root of most people's problems, right, whether it be addiction, anger, eating disorders, all this stuff that they become to counselling for, underneath all of that is a deep-rooted self-esteem issue. Because if people don't feel good about themselves and their self-chat isn't positive, they can't deal with their problems. And that voice we've all got in our heads, the chimp part of the brain, as they say, I don't know if you've read the chimp paradox or whatever, but they put it very clearly in that book. We've all got that chimp in our brain, you know, we've all got that voice in our heads. And for the children's panel and just obviously doing what I've been doing with counselling, you learn that the first 7 years of child's development is the most crucial, because that really programmes the baseline for that voice in our heads as an adult. And the first 7 years, if you're brought up in that kind of environment where you're witnessing trauma and violence and you're not feeling loved, and ultimately your self-esteem and your self-chat's going to be pretty negative. And if you hit a crisis as an adult, you're going to think you're not good enough. And if you're not thinking you're good enough and the self-chat's horrible, then you can't deal with your problems.
And you're seeking it elsewhere 100%,
then. 100%. You're looking for validation externally. You're looking for, you know, you're people-pleasing. You're doing all these things rather than actually trying to nurture the self-esteem. And if you've got a good self-esteem, you're feeling good about yourself, and I mean, it's easier said than done, let's be honest. We're all brought up in a way where we doubt ourselves at times, but I think for the counselling and certainly the person-centred approach, and what I'm trying to do externally with my company Hammocks, Hugs and Dogs, is try to just sit down with people and say, look, there's things out there that can actually help you connect with yourself, start to feel good about yourself, and other things will start to fall into place. You know,
definitely. So you touched upon the Hammocks, Hugs and Dogs. So what is what is that? What does it involve?
Some people think it's a dog walking kind of company or whatever. Do you know how it came about, to be fair? I was doing my Costco diploma, right, and I'd only been like maybe 1 or 2 days into it. And I finished school at 16 and started working my 16th birthday, and I never done anything kind of academically after that. Never went to college or went to school, university or anything. So me being me was at this course, and imposter syndrome's gone rife in my head, telling me, what you doing here? You're never going to be a counsellor. Who do you think you are? I'm trying my best to write every single word that Neil was talking. I'm trying to take notes, and I just got overwhelmed with it. Anxiety just started riddling through my body, and I just almost felt as if I was going to have a panic attack. So I put the pen down and I just went, I can't do this. At that point I thought, I'm not coming back next week. It was like every Tuesday for a year. Imposter syndrome's riddled through my brain. It's the voice in my head's gone, you know, who do you think you are? You're never going to be a counsellor, but you know, all the self-doubt. So at that point I just started kind of daydreaming, thinking about, right, what's going to make me feel better here? What in life do I really think that makes me feel happy? And I thought, right, okay, I can't wait to get home to my house and lie in my hammock in my living room. And then I thought about maybe having my dad's dog for a wee bit and lying in my hammock with my dog, with a dog. And then I thought about my wains and seeing my wains and just getting a cuddle, and it was strange. Hammocks, Hugs and Dogs just came to mind, and I just wrote it in the top right hand corner of the notepad that I was using to try and take notes. And then I just thought about, hold on a minute, once I get through this kind of qualification, I could maybe offer like a counselling service where people could come to my place, whether at my house or whether I had an office or somewhere, and rather than sitting in a chair in a kind of formal counselling setting, they could choose to sit on a couch or choose to sit in a hammock. They can bring their dog and just they can have a hug, and it's just like trying to make an environment where people feel comfortable enough to come and open up and chat and talk about their problems, because if we're not talking about them, we're bagging it up inside the body, and the body's holding the score, and we've all got a breaking point, you know, certainly men, like, I'm sure you know people that have took their own life, and I certainly know people that have took their own life at 40-year-old, and it's horrible.
Absolutely, it is, and it's, I think, knowing that there's resources, knowing that there's things out there that people can go to now, and it's not as a taboo subject as it maybe used to be, where it's more openly spoke about with social media as well. Like, a lot of awareness is being raised. It's maybe not to the extent where it should be for what people know and for what people have went through, but it's getting there. It's taken that direction where it's been more widely accepted, and it's not embarrassing. It shouldn't be embarrassing. So moving on from that, because I know you have developed a workshop around soma breathwork.
Yeah.
So can you just tell us a wee bit, for anyone that doesn't know what breathworks are and what it involves? Because I didn't really know myself. Obviously I know about breathing and meditation and things like that, but is there any difference with soma and what does it involve?
Well, I just really kind of got involved with soma breathwork. I tried various different types of meditation over the years just to deal with anxiety that I had as a kid. I used to take panic attacks as a child growing up in an alcoholic environment, watching my mum and dad, and it's pretty common for most folk, I think, back in the 80s and 90s, where domestic abuse just was almost accepted. It was
normal.
Changed times, wasn't it, really? But like, how many folk grew up in an environment where their mum and dad would be partying, and at night time, and the party would empty in the house, and then the aggression would start, and then the argument would start, and I kind of grew up in that environment, so my parasympathetic nervous system was just totally in tatters, I think, for years. So I suffered panic attacks as a child, and it kind of stopped when I came through the children's hearing system and I went to live with my step mum and my father, and unfortunately my mum was still riddled with addiction at that point. She never got sober for many years later, eventually by going to Castle Craig and Peebles Rehab Centre for 9 months. My mum's 22 years sober now, so
amazing.
I just mean, like, I tried various different methods of trying to find tools to help me when I was going through rough periods in my life, anxiety through the roof, taking panic attacks, and I managed that for years. But soma's slightly different to other types of meditation, like Buddhist meditation, Kitampa, Triratna.
Right.
There's various types of meditation, but soma's very different in regards to, like, it incorporates music, and I love music, like house music, all music, and soma breathing is more like you're breathing in beats.
Right.
So there's various different, like, sequences you can be breathing in, but ultimately, like, we don't even breathe properly. We're not even taught to breathe properly in school. Like, a lot of folk can be mouth breathing, but ultimately the best way we should be breathing is through the nose and out through the mouth, or in through the nose and out the nose in a general state. But I found out through doing the breath work and whatever that when folk are taking a panic attack or whatever, generally they're breathing through the mouth, they're panting, they're maybe like, ha, 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 ha. So what's happening in that situation, which I never knew, which makes total sense to me now as an adult since learning this, when you're breathing through the mouth and you're panting like that and you're in panic mode, your CO2 levels are going down, your oxygen levels are going up, and that's basically affecting your parasympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight. So, like, you've probably maybe wondered why folk are given a bag when they're taking a panic attack, and I used to think that was mental, but ultimately what you're doing is when you're giving somebody a bag to breathe into, they're no longer breathing in oxygen, they're breathing in the CO2 that they're breathing out. So the CO2 levels then go up, the oxygen levels then come back down, and if you're breathing in through your nose, you've got glands in your nose that release nitric oxide, which expand the blood vessels. So again, by deep breaths in through the nose and extending the exhale, keeping the CO2 in the body, it calms the parasympathetic nervous system, and again, it helps folks. So again, I tried various different meditations and different techniques and stuff, and I found that soma just resonated with what I was trying to achieve, and I started getting involved with that a little bit. I had a kind of 5-year plan of doing the course. So I started doing the course maybe about 1.5 years ago, became a level 1 instructor, became a level 2 advanced instructor, and then I'm kind of currently trying to spin a lot of plates and finish my SVQ and do a level 3 as well. But soma's very different in regards to, like, you're breathing in beats. So you'd be breathing in, for example, in beats of 4. So in for 4 and out for 4.
Right.
And what you're trying to achieve is a heart coherence. So you're almost trying to get your breath in tone with your heartbeat and try to calm the heartbeat down as well. And then what would happen is you'd be breathing in beats guided for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then you would do a breath hold on the exhale. So you'd take a deep breath in, fully out, dump all the air out your lungs, and then hold your breath. And what this can do is put your body into a state of intermittent hypoxia. Now, I don't know if you've heard of what that is or not, but it can basically release stem cells and stuff like that into the body, and it's putting oxygen and CO2 to parts of the body that you don't normally have it. But again, it's calming your nervous system down. It's almost pushing your boundaries as well and pushing your comfort zone. And then you would take a deep breath in and then basically squeeze your pelvic floor muscles, activating the mula bandha and forcing life force energy right through your chakras and stuff like that as well. So
wow.
it's there's a lot of people that also are saying that you're activating DMT and stuff like that in your brain as well with doing the breath holds, and the longer you're holding, again, it's putting you into a state of bliss and stuff like that. So no, I've been really enjoying that, and it's really helped with my anxiety, and really helped me kind of just pushing my boundaries a wee bit and my internal kind of self boundaries and comfort zone.
Would you use different techniques for different states of like emotions then?
You could do, aye. And again, it can release trauma, certainly breath hold and stuff like that, but there's a lot of contraindications as well that's to be looked at before you do this sort of breath work. There's various different types of breath work out there, and I would just say to folk, just find something that resonates with yourself and something that you enjoy doing. And soma for me was the path that I decided to choose, and I kind of just gave myself a 5-year plan of trying to find all the tools that help me. And this is what Hammocks, Hugs and Dogs is meant to be. It's just like, I don't have the answers to your problems, but I can show you some tools that I've learned over the course of my journey and introduce you to them, to then build your self-esteem, to then address some of the issues that you're having in life, and maybe then you've got the empowerment to go and look at other things for yourself, because ultimately you've got the answers to your own problems. Connect with yourself through your breath, and bring it back to centre. Ground yourself. So it's been really quite good so far.
Brilliant. So I know that you're starting workshops. I think you already started one, was it maybe 2 weeks ago?
I had my first one a few weeks ago,
And how did it go then? Was it quite successful? Was it well attended?
I think so. Well, all the feedback I've had so far has been good. I kind of incorporated a wee bit of cold water therapy as well. That's another thing I've started doing. Again, the cold water therapy for me was something I tried a couple of years ago, 2 years in October actually. Like previously I'd been seeing people on Instagram and Facebook all get into cold walks in the winter time and doing cold water dunks, and then I started researching a bit about Wim Hof, and I don't have a TV by the way, so I just listen to like audiobooks and podcasts generally, so I get in the rabbit holes quite often. But I started just thinking, like, what is this all these people are doing? What is this guy Wim Hof all about? Like, cold water therapy, what the hell is that all about? So I eventually went to a Wim Hof workshop run in Hamilton, October 2 years ago now, just to try it. I thought, like, may as well give it a bash. And it was unbelievable. Like, it really was unbelievable. And I think that's been the backbone for me of trying to get discipline in my life. Like, if you can get into a cold water tub most days, for a few minutes at a time, 2 or 3 minutes, and you can do most things. I've seen some of your
videos. Honestly, it's like I feel uncomfortable just watching it, and I have done cold water baths a couple of times. I think we'd done one maybe last year, was it? And that was enough for me. I quite like cold water swimming, but maybe not to the extent of ice.
Yeah, it's getting to that time of year now almost where you'll be smashing the ice and stuff like that, and I've had the kids out help me smashing the ice with a hammer and stuff in my old cold tub and stuff. But there's so many benefits to that as well. Like, there really is. One, because you're enforcing a bit of discipline in your life. Again, it's that voice in your head that's telling you, don't get in that cold tub, or go and have a beer, go and have a line of cocaine, go and do that. It's dominating you. It's totally dominating you. So until you can start to really try and get control of that, then how are you going to make the changes in your life when the voice in your head that's dominating you is making the choices for you? And I mean, the chimp paradox talks about it, and they say that a chimp is 5 times stronger than a human being. Like, I think I've got King Kong in my head at times, I really do. Like, but the cold water for me has been really like the basis and the backbone for multiple big changes I've made in my life over the last few years. And that's why I'm trying to introduce it to folk as well and say, like, if you can discipline your mind and get into that cold water and just push your own boundaries, nobody's forcing you to stay in there for as long as you want, or 3 minutes or whatever at all. There's obviously loads of professors and stuff that talk about it. Andrew Huberman is quite a well-known guy that talks about it. Like, 11 or 12 minutes a week has massive benefits to your body, physical body, but mentally, you know, like, I try and do it at least 5 to 7 days a week. If I don't beat myself up, if I miss a day or two, I'm a human being, I'm not a robot, you know what I mean? But I try and hold myself accountable, and don't get me wrong, it doesn't get easy. It doesn't get easy. Every day I procrastinate about it. I get up and I put my shorts on, I look at the window and it's raining, I'll wait for the rain to stop. Or I live on my own, so I'll do every job in my house that I don't want to do normally. I'll be cleaning the curtains and putting the washing on, and like just trying to find every, standing in my shorts, just trying to find every excuse not to go and do it. But again, I hold myself accountable and go out and do it, because I know that if I don't go out and do that, that voice starts getting the better of me, and before I know it, I won't be doing it, and before I know it, I won't be going to the gym, and before I know it, I'll start to sit back, and then I'll start to have a drink again, and then before you know it, all these bad decisions are made in your life, and it's like, you need to hold yourself accountable, don't you?
100%.
For me personally.
Definitely, you're right. And it does, it leaches into other areas of your life, like you say, so having that kind of structure and discipline for you. I mean, as you say, it doesn't necessarily need to be like 3 minutes, so you need to do it for this many times, or for, you know, for this length of time, and definitely.
And build it up, I think. You start with a 10-second cold shower, build it up to 20 seconds, push your boundaries, and this is what the soma breathworks try to do, is empower you to realise that you're actually capable of a lot more than what you think you are, and what that voice in your head's telling you you're capable of. Like, and you're capable of making the changes in your life that you really want, but you need to make a step and take action and stay with it and have the discipline to stay with it. And again, the cold water is just another tool, and the breath work and pushing your breath holds a wee bit longer, pushing yourself out with your comfort zone, because that's where your growth is going to happen. We all want to be lovely and warm in a nice blanket in your comfort zone. But unfortunately, a lot of the time, your comfort zone's going to hold you back in life. And the only person that's holding you back, as I've said, is the person in the mirror. So it's push your boundaries, and you've got your own boundaries, I've got mine. And again, it's when you start to feel the rewards, like Joe Rogan talks about it, at the end of listens to Joe Rogan, it's not about the big massive steps. You can make big steps in life and then go, this is amazing, and that voice in your head will go, oh, you know what, you don't need to do it anymore. Look at how far you've come. Before you know it, you've made 5 steps back. You know, you've lapsed, you've relapsed. But it's the small steps over a long period of time that build the consistency and the compounding effect.
Absolutely, and I think as well, it's like not looking for, the whole theme here is not looking for external validation, because I think searching for that in other people, you're never going to find it.
Never.
You have to see the progress you've made yourself, and I think it's however you want to document that, whether it's a weight loss thing and you see the changes that you've made, maybe taking pictures of yourself, but when you're seeking that externally, people are more often than not happy in themselves. So you're seeking validation from people that 100%. Don't even love themselves. So you're never going to get that. It's never going to be validated. So it's about finding your inner balance of, right, what are my goals here? How am I going to achieve them? What help do I really need to seek in order to get to that stage? And feeling that you've accomplished something, and it might be something really small, like I've reduced my sugar, so I no longer eat sugar. That's something you can tick off and say, right, well, look where I was last year. Now I wouldn't even touch that. And I think it's about having that awareness, like, right, this is what I want to eradicate, putting the steps in place and looking back and going, I've done it. So what's next? And then through these small incremental changes, you've become a whole new person.
100%, but it all lies in awareness. Ignorance is bliss. And look at the society that was out with addiction and everything. Ignorance is bliss. If you're just spending your whole time consuming your and a mobile phone or a telly, or looking for that external validation, watching all the bullshit on telly, like, raise your awareness, raise your vibration. Everything's vibration and energy. Tesla said that. If you want to understand the universe, first think in terms of vibration and energy. And again, I try and incorporate that into my workshops as well. Like the first one I done the other week there, I'd done a wee bit of Om chanting before that, and I used to think only monks sat in robes and done Om chanting. Like, oh my God, what is this Om chanting thing? No, yet, but I've got a big bald napper, so I'm halfway there. No, again, it's just trying to change people's perception and try to, like, again, I try and incorporate that into my workshop as well. And what I'm doing is, like, anxiety, extreme anxiety, physically in the body, is exactly the same sensation as extreme excitement. It's your perception in the moment that's different. One's negative, one's positive. Fear is the negative aspect, love the positive. It's the two most powerful frequencies in the universe. And a lot of the time we're kept in fear, we're worried, we're anxious, we're looking at what's happening on the telly and like the propaganda, and just, that's another conversation. But I'm just saying, like, try to shift people's perception into a place of love and gratitude and feeling good about themselves. And then they don't need to be looking externally then. Hold yourself accountable, raise your awareness, acknowledge the role that you're playing in your own suffering. You're not competing with me. People might look at my Instagram page, I don't really use Facebook these days, and think, oh my God, how can you do that? I could never do that. Well, you're defeated straight away. Tell yourself you can and you will. And that's what I'm trying to do with people, is just try to empower them and saying, look, you're capable of so much more than what you actually think you are. Like, don't think or compare yourself with what I'm doing. It's took me 2 years to get to the stage where I can get into a cold tub and catch my breath without going, oh my God, try to get out. Like, build it up slowly, and as you say, the small steps over a great period of time, but don't compete with anybody else other than yourself. Yeah,
definitely. So what's next for you then? What's coming up?
Well, I work full time, Monday to Friday, single parent, 2 kids, 2 young kids. I'm looking forward to getting my SVQ over the line. My deadline for that is 14th of October. So I've got a wee bit left to do for that. Get that finished and then really start to focus on the hammocks, hugs and dugs aspect. I mean, at the moment I'm doing group breathwork sessions with the cold water. Like the workshop I done recently was probably a 3-hour workshop. I done it in collaboration with a good friend of mine, Anne Murray, who does sound bowls. She knows a lot about chakras and stuff like that, and the kind of spiritual aspect. So I done the kind of breathing aspect, teaching people about the benefits of breath work, how to breathe properly, as we discussed. And then I done a full hours long kind of routine to music, guided, with 4 rounds of in for 4 out for 4 breath work with the breath holds. Then we had a break, and then Anne done we talk about chakras and the energy that flows in your body, and then the resonance with the bowls and stuff like that. And then she done a little bit of a guided meditation with the bowls, and then we done the cold water. So that was that workshop that I done. So I want to be doing more collaborations with like-minded folk, also doing stuff myself. But ultimately what I'm trying to get to, and I'm going to be doing next year once I've got more time to put into this business, obviously working full time as well, is I want to be offering like maybe like a 3-month programme, right, where 12 weeks, for example, on a one-to-one basis, I'm available to support folk who maybe want to come, and rather than just going for your traditional kind of counselling or whatever, or coaching, they can come to me for 12 weeks. We can have 1 session per week where we could have maybe an hour and a half, do a wee bit of stretching, a wee bit of kind of introductory yoga, try and release all the stress for people's bodies when they come for a session. Counselling session where, again, sit in a hammock, bring your dog, I just sit and listen and hold space for folk to have a chat, introducing them to breath work, introducing them to cold water therapy, and then basically over the course of 3 months working with folk to discuss maybe addiction, their problems, that kind of stuff. Try to encourage more guys to be talking as well, and just be even having this podcast and sharing my story. Maybe like people know that it's alright to talk, but ultimately the 12-week kind of plan would be, by the end of 12 weeks you've got the tools, you feel better about yourself, you've got a good routine, daily routine with doing breath work, cold water, you're building yourself up gradually, introducing maybe folk to the likes of sensory deprivation tanks, again encouraging folk to go deep within themselves. For anybody that doesn't know what that is, flotation tank, sensory deprivation, that kind of stuff. And then ultimately by 12 weeks, away you go and live your life. You've feeling good about yourself now. We've talked through some of the issues that you've been encountering over the last 12 weeks, and you feel empowered to go and look for solutions yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, next year probably just really try to focus a lot on trying to get the hammocks, hugs and dogs business kind of up and running and more established, and try to make it accessible as well for everybody. Like, I'm not doing this as a business to make money or anything. I've got a full-time job that takes care of my bills and stuff like that, and I want to really make it accessible for everybody. Like, if I can do it on a donation-based sort of basis, or I want to get involved with Men Matter Scotland as well, because they do absolutely amazing work. I want to be offering some sort of support to their guys as well, whether it's through breathwork workshops or even offering counselling to to the people that work there or whatever. Just try to keep spread the word and try to just keep helping folk, because I'm helping myself at the same time, and by helping others we are helping ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just try to build this kind of feel-good community.
Definitely, I know it takes time, but I think it's networking with others, isn't it?
Yeah.
And bringing together people.
Yeah.
So that we can all contribute something, but everyone essentially gets something back from it.
Yeah.
So it's an exchange of energy. So what I'll do is I'll link your social media pages and any more information of how people can get in touch with you regarding your breathworks workshops. And thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and keep up the amazing work that you're doing as well.
Thank you.
Your vibe attracts your tribe, as I say.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks very much, Eddie.
You're welcome, thanks. Have a great day.